Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely Stream Deck. For more information about the Stream Deck, the link is in the description below.
Hello everyone and welcome to Hype Energy Apex Online Racing Formula 1 action here on F1 2020. I am Fizzymon and I will once again be your commentator here today for some Tier 1 exciting action. We've got a 13 car grid today after a few last minute signups, but that's okay because we will get plenty of action here today. And this race also will be a very important one. Why is that, you might ask? Well, Lenny PNR has the opportunity to lock down the championship today if one of several things happen. If he finishes in the top 5, I believe if my math is correct, he is guaranteed the championship victory. If Jan Fehler, his only rival at this point, does not win the race, Lenny needs to finish within 5 positions of him. But if Jan doesn't even stand on the top 2 steps of the podium, he cannot keep the title fight alive. So that is what is on the line today for Lenny. So we'll have to see if he drives aggressive and goes for yet another race victory after making a beautiful move on Jan Fehler in the penultimate corner at China last week, which unfortunately I was not able to stream. But he put on a beautiful move for the race victory. And we'll see if once again he brings us some action. But he will have some fierce competition as Jan Fehler has been really fast as always. And we do have the return of our defending champion and soon to be former champion of Tom 97. He's driving in the Red Bull today as he has rejoined the league as a reserve driver, so it'll be good to have him back on the grid, and we'll see if he can bring us some more action up towards the front of the grid. So speaking of action, Johan is also another driver that has returned. Johan, I don't believe I informed the viewers of this, but he went out for a bit with an injury. I believe it was a wrist injury, if I'm correct, but he has thankfully made a very good recovery, and he is back. So welcome back to Johan as well. Great to have you back on the grid as always. Now, speaking of Johan, we're going to go right on board with him actually as he takes a lap around the 17 very quick corners here in Mexico City here. Now flat out, second DRS zone out of turn 3 and the run to turn 4. The first sector time, we're probably looking for like a 0.5, the 0.8, 27.8, not too bad. We'll see what Johan can do, locking up a little bit, going through 4 and now 5. Probably one of the slower portions of the track here, using the lower gears. So you gotta make sure he gets the power down, keeps traction onto the car, and now through the S's of 7, and he validates it on the apex. So Johan, unfortunately, on his first hot lap while back in the tier and from injury, not able to capitalize on it, but there's plenty of time here today. Now, Mexico City is known for bringing us a lot of various strategy calls. So you can go for a 2-stop, a 1-stop, you can combine softs, mediums, medium softs, like you can run a ton of different strategies around this track in the 17 corners here. So it will be very interesting to see what kind of strategies these guys go for, but everyone right now on the soft tire as expected. Reyes, meanwhile, will be the first one to set a time lap. He's going to come across the line. It's a 1:13.6. That'll be the mark everyone's going to go for, but a lot of drivers still in the pits. Looks like Blue, though, is going to return back to the pits. I don't know what happened on his lap. He doesn't look like he has any damage, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, he's back into the pits, so he didn't even set a lap, so he doesn't have a delta, so maybe he just didn't like how the lap went. Speaking of how the lap went, Krunex goes slightly faster than that Alfa Romeo with a 1:13.626. So 34 thousandths of a second, which is the gap that we saw in qualifying yesterday at Baku for the top 5. It's currently the gap between our first 2 drivers with no one else currently setting a lap. F1 Racer is out on a lap in his Mercedes at the 27.8 first sector, but let's see what he can do through the S's now. Fast, very fast, foot flat on the pedal, carrying as much speed as possible, keeping it within the track limits. That's key because you could very easily invalidate it if you're not careful. while trying to maximize how much speed he had. He's going purple through the middle sector to 54.7. Let's see what he does now. Very slowly through the hairpin of turn 13, now out 14, 15. Actually, the hairpin's 14, I believe, excuse me. But now through turn 17, the final corner, F1 Racer up the line, 113.62. So he's on provisional pole, but only 3 drivers have set a lap time, so that is something to keep in mind. Now, speaking of setting a lap time, Tom97 currently out on track, looking to start a flying lap. So we'll ride on board Tom once he does start his lap. Let's see what the reigning champion can do, and let's see if he can bring us some action. Now, fun fact is that in the AOR Season 20, Tom won the championship here at Mexico. So this has been a relatively favorable track here now as he pulls flat out onto the main straight. DRS wide open, flying down that front straight here. Going to go probably over 330 kilometers per hour. Yes, he does. Topping out at 334 by the looks of it. Heavy braking into turn 1 at around the 100-meter board. Locking up a bit, though, in right front, but using those sausage curves, getting the power down early, keeping very nice traction now. I know from experience, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you viewers know, that it's very hard to get traction down through that first sector. You got to be very careful because of those sausage curves. They're really much of a pain. But Tom97, purple through the first sector, a tenth and a half quicker than what we've seen everyone else do so far. Now, here we go into the S's. This will be where he'll make it or break it now. Going through, carrying as much speed as possible. Up into 7th gear. Is he going to stay full throttle through this whole section? A very small lift. Yellow flag. Oh, that is a Crewnex into the wall right in front of him. Crewnex, not sure if he was on a second flying lap on the same set of softs as before. Into the wall. That has this lap over. But thankfully, Tom97 was able to keep going. It didn't slow up his lap, but he wasn't able to hug the apex like he wanted, so he might have lost a couple hundredths through there. But now out of 17 and on the run to the line, Tom97 does a 112.8. That is 8 tenths clear of his nearest rival in F1 Racer. A very solid banker lap for the British driver. A very impressive lap that was by Tom. We'll see if any of his rivals have an answer. Fernandez currently on a lap, going through the penultimate and now final corner right now. Let's see what kind of lap the Brazilian can do. Can he put himself on the front row provisionally? Yes, he can. 113.27. So pretty quick time by the Brazilian, still almost half a second behind Tom. Who else is on track right now? Johan has invalidated yet another lap, so not looking too good of a start for, I believe he's a Frenchman. I want to confirm that nationality right now because I do not want to mess that up, and I'd be more than happy to make sure that should make sure that drivers know, make sure that their country is represented properly as well. So I know everyone, like myself, we like to have, someone calls us by our country name. And yes, he is a Frenchman, so there we go. That answers that little question that I had for some odd reason. I want to put that up there, and ta-da. All right. So, back on. Patrick, 2 tenths off of Tom. Does a 13 flat, which is good enough for provisional P2. We'll have to keep an eye on some of these other times coming in. Lenny and Jan, both still in the pits right now. We'll have to keep an eye on them, as they have not come out yet, and they're probably the 2 drivers who will rival Tom. Now, Patrick had a really good race, if I recall, in China. He might have gotten a podium there. Not 100%, but last time out we saw Max AMG looking pretty quick. Patrick did look quick too. Him and his teammate Kev Genetics last time out when we saw them race previously. They were really quick on track, but qualifying wasn't too hot, and that was for Belgium. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how these guys can do. We've seen only really the guys who started up on pole really battle and hold on to position. Everywhere else has been like a whole jumble. So I'll have to see what some of these drivers can do today. Now, who is on a lap? Johan's still on an in lap. He invalidated. It looks like we have Maestro Hoffy beginning a lap in his Ferrari. We'll see what one of the Tifosi, if the Tifosi will be happy about this lap now. Coming down the main straight. We'll keep an eye on Maestro Hoffy as it goes about his laps. Kev Genetics, meanwhile, has invalidated his lap. He's towards the end of it. So while one AlphaTauri is on the front row, the other returning to the pits without any luck. Jan Fehler is out on track. He's on a pair of fresh softs, so he's kind of been waiting for the session to go on before finally setting a lap time. Speaking of which, I told him to let me know the weather, and I haven't actually checked his messages. So we'll do that. Maestro Hoffy purple through the first sector, but we know that Tom did a 27.6, so I believe that is a little misleading. But let's keep an eye on the Ferrari now, because that 0.7 flat is not too far off of the Red Bull. Up at the front, can Maestro Hoffy possibly challenge for pole, or at least the front row. We'll have to wait and see now. Flying through the S's. Let's see what his second sector split. Keeping it balanced. Ooh, little squirmy on the rear end, though. But he's purple through the middle sector. Could this be a miracle lap for the Ferrari driver with 9 minutes left in the session? Maester Harvey now getting the car slowed down, locking up that left front a little bit. And now through the grandstand section and in the penultimate and final corners, going a little wide, though, through turn 16. And he actually bails out on his lap. So on what looks like a lap that could have probably put him on the front row, he's bailed out at the last minute. Wonder why, and we'll have to keep an eye on that. Now, meanwhile, the weather forecast for the race. Dry quali, dry start, wet ending potentially, showing rain at the 45-minute mark. So, that I'm sure that is why we have so many drivers who haven't really pitted. It would make sense, you know, in Mexico normally with its strategies, you know, some people want to start on the mediums. I don't think anyone would really want to start in the hards. But Jan Fehler goes P2, 2/10 off of Tom with a 113 flat. So Tom currently out in front on his own right now in his own league. But interesting, he's got the wet at the end of the race, so these drivers might be thinking, all right, it might be best to just not qualify or, you know, start outside the top 10, start on a pair of hards and try to tough it out until the rain. Maybe that's the strategy, going through the likes of Blue and Lenny, who are just kind of sitting in the garage right now. Either that or they're waiting to put a lap on the mediums. Either way, we're going to keep an eye on this, as this is a developing situation with the rain at the end of the race. Johan, meanwhile, validated his out lap, but that shouldn't really matter too much. Now Johan coming out of the final corner and beginning his next final lap. We do have a car off. Looks like Jan Fehler is kind of leaving room for Fernandez, who's currently on an out lap. But we'll keep an eye on the Racing Point driver. It's his third attempt. Hopefully he's been reusing pairs of softs and not blowing through them for his race pace's sake. But he hasn't validated 2 laps. You can see a little bit of a lockup as his brakes are very hot going through the first sector, keeping the traction down. Now, I was told from him, I actually did talk to him briefly before the race. He says put a lot of practice in. And hopefully that will show off here. 27.854 through the first sector. Not too bad, but a lockup through turn 4 is never going to help you. Now, here we go through turns 5 and then 6 and 7. You know, very slow. Well, that's actually technically just turn 6. Now through turn 7, now 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Flat out. Power all the way on. Foot flat on the floor. What can he do? Keeping it very clean. He keeps it valid this time around. And the Sector 2 mark is going to be a 54.6. That's a similar time to what we saw out of Maester Hoffey and Tom. Maybe a tenth or two off. Could he put it in the top 4 perhaps? Now Johan locking up a tad, slightly missing the apex of 13 though. Now through 14, 15, he actually invalidates it. Oh no, what would this lap have been if you see if he pushes it through the line? It would have been a 113.274. That would have put him with Krunex and Fernandez in that little cluster there for 4th and 5th. But a 3rd straight invalidation definitely will not help the Frenchman's progress or help his confidence at all today. Now behind him, Patrick is on a lap. Patrick's purple through Sector 2. He's actually improved by almost a 10th. Can Patrick put it back on the front row here in his AlphaTauri? Let's see. Coming out of the final corner, it's flat out until the line. Here we go. Patrick is a 10th off pole with a 112.9. Only the 2nd driver to get into the 1 minute 12 seconds. And yes, Tom97 is one of Velace Esports' premier YouTubers. That is that Tom. And like I said previously, he is the reigning champion. So it looks like he's come to, doesn't really have enough time to take back his crown per se, but hey, he's more than welcome to fight and, you know, provide us with some more scintillating action. Now, who else is currently on a lap? We got Reyes on an invalidated lap, unfortunately. Kev Genetics, the other AlphaTauri, going to the end of Sector 2, 54.7, so a little bit slower than the sector mark we just saw from Johan. So it looks like he's on track to be around P6. About a half second off pole. It's probably be like a 113.3, 113.4, but he bails out on the lap, so it doesn't really matter what we would have thought. This lap will not count no matter what. Reyes, meanwhile, invalidated on his lap. Who else is currently out? F1 Racer in the Mercedes, gearing up to start another hot lap. He is currently half second off pole, 113.334, previous best. And now, what can the German do? Can he possibly move up the grid? I mean, he gets a 10th out of his time. He's going to be right there with Krunex, but he's going to need to find a little more than a 10th if he wants to really skyrocket up the order. Now, we still have a lot of drivers who haven't set in time, so like likes of Lenny PNR, Blue, Maestro Hoffy, you know, we know they're quick, you know, Lenny especially, but Blue and Maestro Hoffy have shown some pretty good qualifying and race pace. Kev Genetics has also bailed out in 2 laps, but he looks relatively quick, and you can't ever forget Johan. So, we'll have to wait and see. There are a lot of guys here who have not set a lap. But we'll keep an eye on F1 Racers. The only driver out on track right now as everyone begins to get ready for their final run, or maybe not to qualify at all. There, as you can see, Kev Genetics has been invalidating his laps. We're not going through it now. F1 Racer kind of looked like he cut the corner there, but he's bailed out on this lap. Yeah, he's bailed out on it completely. Might be coming back to the garage now and just said, all right, might just be better just to gear up and go again. Not sure what the deal is with that. But if we look on currently, if we go to fitted, you can see now who's going to be on track and what. So Kev Genetics now on the medium tire, getting ready to go out. Fernandez just left the garage. He's on a fresh set of softs. Kev Genetics, you can see there he is on the medium. Johan, I believe, is leaving the garage now on a medium as well. Yeah, so, or soft as well, excuse me. So he does not have, it looks like, an extra set of mediums. But now, this will be interesting. 2 minutes, 50 seconds left in the session. Who's going to jump first? We've got 3 drivers out on track right now. No one on a lap. But who will go for what? I'm assuming a lot of these guys outside of Johan, who's just been invalidating his laps. Everyone else who hasn't set a time is going to go for the mediums, and they're just kind of waiting. There we can see, it looks like Reyes leaving the garage now on what I assume is a set of softs. Jan Fehler also on a set of softs right now. See who else puts on the mediums, or is everyone going to go for the softs? Very interesting strategy calls by some of the guys who are just going to go for that one-shot quality at the end of the session on the mediums. But a lot of waiting. No one looking to pull the trigger at the moment. But we'll keep an eye out with Fernandez. He's the first one to start his final lap of the session. He's got enough time to do a second one if he decides to bail on this one, but not sure if he has enough fuel. So we'll have to keep an eye on the Brazilian. Currently 4.5 tenths off pole, which is, you know, it's doable to lower that gap, but it would be very hard. There we can see a lot of the cars leaving the pits now. A lot of drivers on softs. So a lot of these guys like Lenny, Blue, all these guys really on softs. Actually, I don't even know if Lenny's left the garage yet. Oh, no, Lenny has. Blue has not. Blue's just sitting in the pits. So is, it looks like, one of the Ferraris. So those two look like they might not qualify. I don't know if they have enough time to leave the garage and get out in time now. But Fernandez invalidated his lap, so he's going to back out and try to go once more. But there's now a lot of traffic on track right now. So there's Kev Genetics on the mediums. Everyone else, Lenny on the softs. That's interesting. He waited the whole session, and he's just going to say, I'm going to go on the softs. You know, not even worth going for the mediums. Max AMG as well, not worth wasting pairs of softs. Might as well just wait. So he's just going to go on a pair of softs. Tom also on track on a pair of softs. So a lot of drivers now. Reyes, he is currently on a lap. He currently slightly improved on his time with 113.65. That's not really enough to put a dent in the driver's gap, in the gap in front of him. Jan Fehler behind. Excuse me. Jan Fehler behind now, starting his final flying lap. So he is the first one to begin it, technically. So Maestro Hoffy and Blue, both in the pits. They will not set a time this lap, it looks like. So they will be starting no higher than 12th and 13th, respectively, all depending on what the game, or what position the game decides to give each of them. Jan Fehler, though, meanwhile, is almost a 10th improved through the first sector. Let's see what the German driver can do now through turn 6. Because Johan's retired from the session, so he burned through his sets of softs, and I guess was not able to put down a valid lap in time. But let's keep an eye on the progress of Jan now. He needs to be in the top 2 to keep his championship hopes alive. As slim as they are, they're still there. Now let's see, at the end of sector 2, it's a 54 flat. He is over 3 tenths up. This would certainly put him on provisional pole. What does Jan Fehler have left in the tank? Now, we don't know the deltas yet for the other drivers on track, but now through the penultimate and final corner now, can Jan Fehler put it on pole? Coming out of the final corner, it's a 112.6. He's got a 10th to Tom, but where is Tom right now? Tom did not improve on his first sector time, so he's gonna have to. He's got it all to do right now. But a little behind. Look at some of the other drivers. So Fernandez invalidated his lap. He will not improve. Behind him, is it Kev Genetics perhaps? Yes, Kev Genetics on the mediums. He is 1.7 seconds off of pole, so he's not looking like he's really going to challenge. He is not using his battery, so he's kind of just stationary there. F1 Racer, meanwhile, next one coming up to the line. We'll see, can he challenge for a potential top front row? Coming out of the final corner, it's going to be a 113.1. That's up to P4. Now here comes Patrick. Patrick is improved by 1,000th of a second. He stays P3, will not improve. Tom 97, meanwhile, he cannot improve on his lap time. And it looks like Jan Fehler. Now where is Lenny? Lenny coming across the line. Lenny invalidated his lap time, so Lenny will start all the way down in P11. Jan Fehler sticks it on pole position. Max AMG, the only other driver with a chance to knock him off, he will start P9. He's tried to slow down enough to not start in the top 10, but I don't think he realized that a couple drivers did not set times where they invalidated it, so he will start P9. So maybe slowing down there might have not been the best move. But either way, Jan Fehler on pole position and in the driver's seat for where he wants to be. Exactly. Now, here's the interesting thing. Blue, Maestro, Lenny, and Johan all get chances to start on fresh tires. Now, interesting, though, Blue and Maestro Hoffy, who, well, Maestro, I believe, set like a lap time. I believe he went out. We saw him on track, then came back into the pits. Same with Blue, but the likes of like Lenny, who invalidated, and Johan, who retired, got shuffled down to the bottom. So I don't know what the logic is by the game. So Lenny's down in 12th, Johan in 13th. While Jan Fehler sticks on pole position. Got Tom 97 alongside, who won the race here last time out with Patrick in P3. Patrick, a really strong qualifying performance for the AlphaTauri driver, starting in 3rd. The only driver in the top 9 not on the softs is Kevin X, as you saw. Interesting qualifying session here now. As we move on to the race, we'll have to check what kind of clouds we're going to see, if we'll see clouds at the start. No, it's perfectly sunny skies, but there is rain predicted, so we'll see. We'll have to see what the Mexico City weather is like. Now, it is a very long race, folks, so do be prepared. It's a 35 lapper, and we're talking about 1 minute 20 lap time, so excuse me, no, it's more like 1 minute 14 through 1 minute 17, 18, so it's going to be a 35 long laps. It's, you know, with the 2 pit stops, it's going to be an interesting one, but it should be a fun one. As last time out, we saw plenty of overtakes, and I'm sure we'll see plenty today as well. Speaking of Lenny, because that rhymes, and I'm just going to go with it. Lenny starting down the order. I'm not sure if that was planned to do a last-minute run, if he just wanted to do a last-to-first challenge, what his deal is. But we'll have to see, because I'm sure he is the driver who is out of place, that's for sure. So we'll have to see what he can do on his way moving up the field. Hopefully he can keep it clean through the first few corners, where there tends to be a few incidents here in Mexico City. It gets pretty tight, you know, going through that chicane on turns 2 and 3. You can see how tight it gets with those sausage curves. Drivers all trying to battle out for position. And it could cause some carnage. We'll have to wait and see, though. Hopefully everyone gets through cleanly. But it is a very long run down to turn 1. So drivers might be using that slipstream, some of that battery, that fuel to get into position to possibly make an overtake through turns 1 through 3. But we'll have to wait and see now. Drivers currently loading their setups, getting their strategies ready. So you can see there goes Jan Fehler readying up. So we'll keep an eye for the start. Gonna take a sip of my coffee now. I'm sure my voice is going to my throat's gonna be a little sore. My voice box is gonna be a little rough after this, but I'm sure it'll be worth it. We'll get plenty of action here from the 13-car grid. And as you can see there, Jan taking us away. Let's look at the tire compound. So softs and mediums. Everyone who didn't set a time starting on the mediums, and then everyone else, of course, the top 9, all starting on the tires that they qualified on. Now, if Max AMG didn't slow up at the line, not quite sure what kind of time he would have done, but I'm sure he's kicking himself now that he is stuck on the soft compound of tire. Anyways, so what will be key now is Jan Fehler and Tom. Now, last time Tom just had a little bit more pace than Jan, mainly in the wet. The question is now, can Jan strike back and get revenge for that race in the previous season and come back and win the race? But not only do that, but he needs to also win the race and then hope that Lenny does not get in the top 5. Now, I believe Jan realizes that the championship's a little out of grasp, and Lenny's just been so dominant this season. And so I'm sure that's not on his mind. I'm sure he just wants to win the race and stand on that top step of the podium after losing out in the penultimate corner at China last week. But this man right here, Lenny, with the chance to win the title today for AOR Season 21. We'll have to keep an eye on him as he makes his way through the field, which we definitely expect him to do. But now you can see Jan leading us through the final corner now, coming back to the grid and preparing for the long, long run to turn 1. It's going to be an exciting one, folks. So strap in and get ready. I don't know why we're getting shown a camera shot of all the way down. I mean, see if we can get a better camera angle here. Yeah, for some reason Jan Fehler, we see when we switch to him, it's just like see the whole straight. Don't really see the grid. Not sure what's going on there, but there you can see at the back of the grid, Johan pulling up to his grid slot, and we're getting about to go underway here. The green flag's waving. We're not getting a good camera angle, it looks like. There we go. The lights are on here. We got 3, 4, and 5 lights. And away we go here in Mexico City. It looks like we got a little bit of smoke off of Tom 97's car. It looks like a little bit of wheel spin, and Jan is flying. He is gone. No one is contesting him, but we're going 3 wide for 3rd place right now between Patrick, Racer, and Krunex. They're going to go 3 wide in the back. Oh, 2 wide is Tom. You can see pulling out in 2nd. F1 Racer on the inside. Patrick trying to hold around the outside. Everyone clear. It looked like Lenny and Blue both did not have good starts. Fernandez moving, battling Krunex now side by side through turn 3 and on the run to 4 now. Who's going to drain the battery and get ahead? Krunex will have the inside line on the Brazilian. He's going to brake very late. Almost goes in the back of the AlphaTauri ahead. Fernandez goes very wide and will stay P6. But both the Renault drivers having horrible starts back to order. Maestro Harfi and Max MG on the opposite end of things. Well, Maestro moving up the field. Max MG moving up to 8th. Captain X getting demoted to 10th on the mediums. Now he started on. But bad starts for the Renault drivers. Good starts for the guys up front. Jan Fehler leading the way here in his McLaren. It's lap 1 out of 36. So it's actually 36 laps. So I do apologize for that miscalculation, but that just goes to show how long the race will be. And he is looking through. F1 Racer up to 3rd. Patrick losing down a position at the start. And then also some other big movers. Blue down 3. I think we saw him kind of have a little bit of wheel spin in the background. He kind of jumped out to the right, and I think that's what kind of ruined Lenny's start, because he started right behind him. Fernandez didn't actually just drop down the order at this little bit of timing board mishap, so we'll look at the detail stuff shortly. But there we go. It is lap number 2, not lap number 3. You can see Lenny looks like he's on the move. Yeah, he's going for the overtake on Johan into turn 1. Lenny on a little bit of a recovery drive here after having a shockingly poor start now, but he's kind of stuck behind Kev Janex at the moment. The soft tires are going to be really, really quick here at the start of the race, but the medium tires will be able to go about close to double the distance as the softs. We'll see them come to life soon enough. We'll also be curious to see what kind of strategy these guys are going to go for. I mean, if they know there's rain at the end of the race, will it actually get wet enough for the intermediate tires? The drivers just, like, you know, come in early. We'll have to wait and see. But last time out here, we saw drivers go for the gamble early when it went from wet to intermediates, and it did not pay off. So a lot to think about going through these heads. A lot of strategy will be needed today. You can see Max MG is already starting to lose a little bit of distance. I'm not sure if the interval thing is actually updated, but it looks like we'll go to go to leader. It looks like that's a little better. So you see Max MG still within DRS range. The whole field within DRS range with each other, so that will really help the medium runners of Maestro Hoffy and behind. Tom 97 going purple to 116.9. A little faster than Jan at this stage. As you can see, he's already broken the DRS to F1 Racer. However, the only DRS detection point for the first 2 straights is in the final sector, so they won't have DRS through here, but he'll get DRS through the end of Sector 2 as they go through the S's. But Tom looking really fast right now. He's really closing in on Jan Fehler, gaining a lot in the run to turn number 4. Jan locking up a little bit in front, and Tom starting to put the pressure on the German here. Lap 3 early on, battling for the lead. The 2 of them pulling away a little bit from F1 Racer from behind. He's already lost DRS to them. He's kind of starting his train of his own. Meanwhile, no farther back, Lenny kind of stuck behind Kev Genetics, who's already lost DRS to Maestro Hoffy ahead. So Lenny needs to get a move on if he wants to keep with the rest of the field of championship leader. Not off to a good start. Brunex picking the first time penalty the other day. I'm sure we'll see a lot more with how hard it is to keep it in these track limits. We see Johan picking up one as well. So not too good of a start so far for several of these drivers. Meanwhile, coming out of the final quarter and the start of lap number 4, Tom 97 is currently a little over half a second behind Jan. Is he going to get close enough? Is he going to drain his battery on the run into turn number 1? He's not looking like he's going to be close enough this time around. He's gaining a lot. He's got the DRS open. What, is he going to go for a lunge? No, he's just going to hold position for now. No one else really close enough. Well, actually, Lenny in the background gaining a lot on Captain X, who does not have DRS. And Lenny looking to go around the outside through turn number 1, and he makes the move fair and square on the Alpha tire behind, and he will get DRS for the second straight as well to kind of help him reel himself and the rest of the cars back into contention. But right now, he needs to get in the DRS range because right now, Maestro Hoffy is getting pulled along by the soft runners, but Lenny is not because of that 1.2 second gap, so I'm sure he'll be able to close it. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Meanwhile, F1 Racer kind of holding his own train right now from P3. Not really able to match the pace of Jan and Tom at the moment, which is a very, very tall order considering Tom was in the Challenger Series for a few races this year, and Jan was in it for the whole season and is a AOR Tier 1 race winner. So, tall order for F1 Racer as he goes for a podium finish here, holding off the field as everyone is basically in a DRS rate. Behind Regas, losing a little bit of touch to Fernandez though. But now let's go back to the battle for the lead now. Lap number 5. Tom is a 10th closer now. Will he get close enough? He was only 4.5 tenths compared to the 5.5. So will Tom go for the move? It's right on board with him. Tom, he's gaining a lot down the straight. He's not using any extra battery by the looks of it. He's going to go to the inside. They're going to go side by side through turn number 1. And Jan is going to yield the position. And Tom 97 up into the race lead on lap number 5. Jan Fehler down to second position. Meanwhile, behind Patrick is really close behind. He wants to retake that third place position. He's using the DRS, but he's not close enough to make the move on F1 Racer this time around. Meanwhile, Regas under a lot of pressure from the Ferraris behind. He does not have DRS anymore either. So Regas really starting to struggle in that Haas. Not keeping up with the Brazilian up ahead of Fernandez. And that is hurting him. It's not helping him that he cannot be pulled along, and he has no DRS to help him defend from Max MG. But he's gained a little bit, though, through the S's because of the dirty air up ahead. He's not going to get DRS right now, but I believe he's already out of battery, which is definitely not going to help him at all. If you look at his telemetry, no, he was not. I don't know why I thought I saw a light blinking. Anyways, go back up towards the front now. Jan almost a second behind Tom, so Tom really flexing the muscles, making those soft tires work. Meanwhile, Patrick lost a little bit through the final sector. He was with under half a second, which seems to be the golden gap you need to be behind the car in front to make the move stick by the end of the straight. But you can see now he was like 6-7 tenths coming out of the final corner, and as a result, he was not able to make the overtake there. Gets close in braking zone, but not close enough. Now looking a little farther back now. We're going to look here, once again, at the battle, kind of a little bit of a train for Regas. Now Lenny kind of stuck. He's not really going to be able to make a good overtake on Mr. Hoffy because he has DRS to defend. And Regas up ahead does not, which is kind of slowing up the whole field as he's kind of driving a little bit defensive. He's gaining a little bit on Fernandez through the slower portions of the track, but he's not really able to close up enough. So, and yeah, the stream's it's definitely a little bit of internet issues. Do apologize. Hopefully it's not too bad. But you can see actually Lenny, here he goes. He looked like he was going to go for a move coming out of the S's and into turn number 13, but he thinks better of it. He's going to hold by. He's going to go for the inside move. No, he backs out of it at the last second. The Frenchman starting to get a little antsy. He wants to get through and start moving up the field because you can see on the mini-map, Jan Fehler and Tom are just driving away. And I'm sure Lenny wants to challenge for the win, but Maestro Hoffy, or no, that's Max AMG, excuse me, into the pits to pit off the soft tires. Very early pit stop. He's going on to the hard, so he's looking for the early pit stop. Probably going to go on the hards and go until the rain. Now, that's assuming the rain does come in. Now, meanwhile, Patrick made the move stick on F1 Racer into turn number 1. Patrick up in the third position now. He's got 3.7 seconds to Jan up ahead. So he's got a lot of work to do to catch back up to the leaders. Meanwhile, in his mirrors, though, Krunex trying to go around the outside of F1 Racer into turn number 4. He's got the inside line for 5 now. The two of them side by side into turn number 6, but can F1 Racer hold around the outside? Krunex will leave just enough space. Looks like the Racer's going to be ahead going to the S's. Yes, F1 Racer is ahead, and he maintains the position this time around. But Racer looking a little vulnerable to Krunex there. He almost lost 2 positions in 2 DRS rates, which would have been horrible for his chances. But he's also lost DRS to Patrick now. Crucially, Patrick has pulled that gap, which is going to be very much a problem for the pack that is behind. Now Lenny has caught up to, or actually made the move on Maester Hoffy after Maester Hoffy's teammate pitted, so we did not get to see the Frenchman move up, but he's currently now stuck once again in this train that Patrick just broke out of. Let's go back up though to Krunex. Can he make the move on Maester? He's gaining a lot. There he goes. He switches to the right-hand side of the track, and it looks like Krunex will have the position done and dusted going into the braking zone of turn number 1. Now he's trying to run down to see Johan making the move stick into turn number 1 on the straight as well. He's passing by Blue in the Renault. And yeah, some of these guys, we'll have to see if Max AMG's strategy does pay off. Yes, the rain, you know, depending on when the rain comes, will depend on if those hards work for as long as they will. I mean, you have to pit really early onto them because the softs just don't last that long around here. We'll have to keep an eye on that now. Letty, meanwhile, is the lead Renault. Is that, or not, sorry, not the lead Renault. Yeah, he is the lead Renault, but he's the lead medium tire runner. So as these guys off on the softs coming to pit, we'll have to keep an eye on his progress. He might start to make a comeback soon enough. Meanwhile, up front, Tom, almost a second ahead of Jan Failure. You can see there on the side pod camera now going through the penultimate corner. The Red Bull is there. He's going to get the DRS on this lap, but he's really having to push. But no, Jan elects to go into the pits now, pit off the softs. Meanwhile, Lenny making the move on Regis through this third sector. That's a bold move. Lenny moving up to 7th, which will now be 6th due to Jan hitting. And the Frenchman on the move, starting to pick off positions. Meanwhile, up ahead, Fernandez looking to be the next guy to mug F1 Racer. He's going to go for the inside move into turn number 1. No, he thinks about it, but Racer locks up a little bit. Fernandez all on the diffuser of that Mercedes. And F1 Racer really struggling at this stage right now. As you can see, Krunex has already pulled him away and gapped him. Meanwhile, Johan Byblu battling a little bit in the background. You see Johan Byblu kind of just flip-flopping positions at the moment. So that's interesting. Also, Max AMG 7.5 behind Jan. The only 2 drivers to have pitted at this time, so keep an eye on that. But now it looks like Max is going to try to go to the rain, while the mediums on Jan may or may not, depending on when it comes out. So a lot to play for here. You see F1 Racer. Really, ooh, someone went really wide there. Looks like Krunex really struggling for track limits right now. I believe he's up to 6 seconds. Yeah, him and Johan both struggling for track limits. 6 and 9 seconds, and now 12 seconds. It is not looking good for Johan at all with the rate he is struggling with these track limits. The rate he's going to get himself disqualified. So that is not good. See, go ahead. I do apologize for any lost frames at the moment. Keep an eye on that. Just keep letting me know. I'm going to make sure I got stuff disconnected from the Wi-Fi because I'm not on a hardwired connection. So once again, I do apologize for any streaming issues or inconsistencies. But meanwhile, back to the action on track. Jan Failure has undercut Tom. He's back into race lead, but we're not going to deal with that too much because of the varying strategies. Meanwhile, Max MG has cleared both F1 Racer and Fernandez. So pitting for the undercut 2 laps early onto the hards has worked out very nicely for the Ferrari driver. Now, with the guys who are running towards in the top 5 now, are stuck behind him. Now Patrick is just only 1.4 up the road, so he's catchable. But look at the gap between Patrick and Tom, 6.4, 6.5 seconds. That is huge stuff. And Tom also has lost DRS to Jan. So while he's trying to get these tires up to temperature. Oh, but Jan made a huge mistake through the S's. Not sure what happened there. Jan losing out a whole lot of time. He was a second clear, Tom, and now he is 1.2. Oh, why is he disconnected? Oh, Jan Failure is disconnected. The lobby host disconnecting, and a potential race winner. This is horrible news for him. He's completely disconnected from the lobby. Now his AI driving for him. He's going to lose lots of time to Tom up ahead. Meanwhile, Krunex, the last soft runner to pit onto a fresh set of mediums. Let's go ahead and see there. We're going to make sure that Jan has a backup invite because this is not good at all. I believe I sent him one earlier, so hopefully he should have a way back into the lobby. But we're going to keep an eye on that on the stream. Yes. He currently listed as offline, so I believe he had a computer crash or something. That is horrible news for the McLaren driver. But now it looks like Tom97 is in the driver's seat to win this race. Now that's assuming that he's able to take these tires to the rain and that the drivers in front are not. So right now Lenny setting the pace on those 10-lap-old medium tires, trying to drive away from the rest of the field. Meanwhile, F1 Racer through turn 4, making the move on Max AMG, the Ferrari, doing the best he can, but on those hards, you only just get so much grip until, you know, you just get outclassed by the mediums. So, as it looks like right now, Krunex picking up another time penalty in P9 right now. He's going to drop way down the order if he does not get that penalty situation squared away. I do not see Jan appearing online just yet. I know I sent him a backup invite, so we'll keep an eye on that for now, along with some of the how the frame situation is looking, which again I do apologize for a little bit of the choppiness. So, on track, Patrick now is going to pass Jan's Ghost, who's already lost about 7 seconds. It looks like he had a complete computer crash there, causing him to go off at the S's. And what would look like a promising undercut, you know, he was completely clear of Tom's DRS. It's going to cost him a lot of time. Meanwhile, speaking of costing a lot of time, Max AMG falling back behind the medium tire runners. So Max really struggling, but he is penalty free if you look at the penalty situation. 12 seconds for Krunex, 12 for Johan. So Max trying to dive up the inside of Fernandez, but not making it stick. Those hards just don't have as much grip as the mediums at this stage. And Max AMG really gambling on those hards, trying to hold out until the rain. But we'll see if that was the right gamble, especially with the drivers started on mediums now. Looking races, the F1 Racer clear, now clear the ghost of Jan Fehler. Tears for the German. It looked like he was on course to potentially win this race from pole position now. All that completely down the drain with his computer crashing. It's either his computer crashing or his Wi-Fi crashed. One or the other. You never want to see one of them happen. But now, I'm going to keep an eye on the battling on track, the action on track. You see Tom starting to reel in by Blue and Johan. The two guys at the tail end of the medium starters being reeled in by who would be our net race leader of Tom 97. But we know there's potential rain at the end of the race. However, we don't know when it will come in and if some of these guys will be able to make it. But what I was told, it was be at the very end. It's probably that last weather slot is rain. So this driver, it could be a fully dry race. We don't know. Like, in the rain might come at the very last few laps, and it might just end up being dry running with a little bit of drizzle. You never know, but we're going to have to keep an eye on it. And if that is the case, running on the hards may not have been Max AMG's best decision, but we'll keep an eye on that situation as it develops now. We'll also keep an eye on a little bit of a battle. You got a three-way battle for fourth. Johan leading the way of By Blue. Now Tom flirting with DRS range as he goes to the final sector. I think he might have just gotten it there before the DRS detection point. Now you can just see how much more grip and pace he has at this time as Kev Genetics comes into pit off of the mediums. Possibly for another set of mediums? Well, not sure. Not exactly sure. He's picking for a set of hards, so he's going to go either till the end or till the rain. One or the other. Kev Genetics pulling the trigger onto the hards. However, I'm not sure if he knows about the pace of Max AMG on the hards, so maybe with a little bit less fuel in the tank, it'll be a little better for him. Not sure. Being back up to the action of Tom, we can see Johan dipping his tires in the grass. He kind of got slowed up a bit, kind of just letting Tom through. I think that might have been a little intentional, knowing no point in fighting Tom at this stage, because Tom is much quicker than these guys, and just battling him would probably cost them. Like Captain X also pitting off the medians, 3.6 behind his nearest rival of Regas. So at AlphaTauri now, the first guy who was a front runner who hadn't pitted now into the pits. And you can kind of get an idea where some of these guys will come out after pitting. But right now, at the front, excuse me, I'm not sure why my acid reflux is killing me right now, but right now Lenny leading the way, 3.1 seconds to Maester Hoffey, has not pitted yet. First driver who has pitted is Tom 97 on a 4-lap old mediums. Setting purple lap after purple lap, it's 16.8. He did a 16.8 or 0.9 last lap as well. So Tom flying right now. Getting the DRS down some of the straights is definitely going to help his progress. But the British driver currently looking mighty quick in what would be the net race lead. Now behind, a little farther behind, Patrick and Krunex. Johan picking up another time penalty. That's not what the Frenchman wants, to get so many time penalties, because it could get him disqualified at this rate. I mean, he's up to 15 seconds and 15 laps. And if you get, I believe, 30 off of track limits alone, that's when you get hitting that disqualification by the game. We never want to see that happen, but it is Mexico, and as drivers are pushing to their limit, you know, sometimes you do make mistakes. You go invalidate your lap, go over the track limits, and you get those warnings and those penalties. So not what he would want, but he's going to have to keep it clean, you know, try and keep it on track for his sake. Otherwise, he's just going to tumble down the order once penalties are applied. Now, keeping an eye here, battle for 6th position, Krunex and Patrick. Krunex also in a similar situation penalty-wise as Johan, but now up front, actually. Meanwhile, Lenny into the pits. Behind him, so is Maester Hoffey. So Tom 97 will take the race lead once again. Behind him, Johan also into the pits. So 3 of the 4 drivers who were on mediums into the pits. But Lenny going on to soft. So is Maester Hoffey. I would assume possibly Johan as well. So he does go in 15 laps on the mediums and then onto the softs. Jan Fehler's computer is back up and running. He says continue race. So I'll make sure to I'll send him another invite back into the lobby here. We send him back one. He's going to be very far down the order. So we'll see what he can do. A little bit of a recovery drive, losing a few laps of time and a lot more of pace. Because see, now he has rejoined the session, and hopefully he's able to at least get some points out of the race. It's going to be a tall order, but we'll have to wait and see. Meanwhile, Krunex currently running P4. He's been trailing Patrick since before the pit window, since before he was able to clear the roadblock that was F1 Racer. Since clearing him, he was able to, he's been able to stick with Patrick, but hasn't really been able to make the overtake. You see him losing a little bit of time there through the S's. So, struggling a little bit. Meanwhile, Lenny making the move on Max AMG, who's on the hards. Now Lenny's going to look for the move on Fernandez. It's fresh softs. He's going to be absolutely lighting up the timing board. You can see going up the inside into the hairpin there through the stadium section. They're going to go side by side. Very bold move by Lenny. He's up to P6. Fernandez down to P7. By Blue pits from towards the front. He was currently running in P2, and he will drop down the order probably onto a fresh set of softs. And it looks like now Lenny currently up to P5, looking to get another notch on his belt in F1 Racer. Now Lenny, all he has to do, I mean, well, Jan is looking right now, running outside the points. So as of right now, as it stands, Lenny would be your new AOR Tier 1 champion. And he wants to do it in his style. He's got a lot of time to our race leader, Tom 97, but Lenny currently going around the outside of F1 Racer up into P4. One more position to go, but he did pick up a 3-second time penalty through battling. So we keep an eye. He's 12.2 off of Tom. I'm not sure if he'll be able to catch that up on this pair of softs, but we'll have to wait and see. You can also see how much time Jan lost by being ghosted those few laps. He lost 28 seconds to Tom. Now, if you remember, he was a second clear of Tom, made the mistake, came back on track, and that's kind of when he disconnected. So I'm not sure if it was a mistake or just his game crashing or whatnot, but that caused that whole issue, that whatever he had cost him 28 seconds of time, which is just heartbreaking. But he won't give up, that's for sure, and we'll see what he can do as he claws his way back through the field. You can see Lenny setting a fastest lap of 15.2, much faster than Tom 97's previous best of 16.8, but it does help when you are a tire softer and a little less fueled. Meanwhile, Krunex up ahead, making the move on Patrick finally. This has been about 10 to 12 laps in the making. And the Alfa Romeo driver moving ahead of the fellow Alfa driver, the Alfa Tauri driver, down to P3. Krunex up into P2. A little farther back, Jan Fehler and By Blue battling it out. By Blue on those softs, while Jan, who was, our pole sitter, who disconnected. Two of them racing a bit, for 12th position, which, hey, it's better than nothing, but Jan on those old mediums is going to be struggling a little bit, especially with the AI not really being that good at managing your tires. Ugh, excuse me. The other Lenny's caught up to the battle for second position. That's now a three-way battle. He's catching like crazy. Look how much later he's able to break through the stadium section of the track. He's going to be all over the gearbox of Patrick coming out of the final corner. Nails the traction down. He's going to try to go around the outside of Patrick. but he's not really going to get enough overspeed there. But there you can see in tow Patrick and Lenny looking to do a double overtake on Crunex, which he's got nothing he can do to defend it. Lenny, meanwhile, going to try to take second position from Patrick. Patrick braking very late, trying to hold it around the outside. They're side by side through turn 2 and 3, but Lenny, with those fresh softs, able to hold on, make it through. Now Crunex trying to come back at Patrick, but he doesn't have the DRS to help him down the straight. Lenny gonna go up to second. Patrick will basically stay in third, and Crunex loses out 2 position, drops down to 4th. Lenny got 8.3 seconds, 8.1 to catch up to Tom 97. He's gained 4 seconds on the previous lap or so, but he's got a lot of work to do on those softs, which are certainly going to start to die really, really quickly. Now Crunex, once again, he finally got around Patrick, but then has a double overtake taken on him. He's dropped outside of the podium positions. He does have that 12 seconds of penalties. You see the clouds there, they are. They're starting to come in. You know, this race starting to look like the rain might come in a bit. It might come before the end of the race. We might see it a little earlier. The question is now, can these drivers stretch out their tires long enough to the rain? Or will guys on the hards potentially be on the right strategy? We don't know. We'll have to keep an eye on those fresh softs. Should make it. They won't necessarily puncture, so that should make it another like 8 laps. We'll have to keep an eye on. And meanwhile, Fernandez making the move on F1 Racer stick through turn number 1. Fernandez up into 5th, F1 Racer down to 6th. I'm pretty sure Racer at this point is just ensuring that he doesn't get a penalty, because with all the penalties around him, he's going to get free positions, that's for sure. Question is how many? Oh, there goes Maestro Hoffy diving up the inside of the Mercedes driver. The two of them side by side through the middle sector, but Maestro Hoffy on those fresh softs. Going to go around the outside of turn 6 now. He just gets better traction. F1 Racer trying his best to hold the position. And they're going to go side by side into 7, but Mr. Hoffy's going to get the position and make it stick. And Mr. Hoffy up into 6th, Racer down to 7th. Getting absolutely mugged at the moment, but like I said, doesn't have a penalty, so he could use that to his advantage. Speaking of advantage, Lenny, this lap alone, has gained 2.5 at Tom 97. So Lenny currently flying out on track. Now it seems like I'm still losing a decent amount of frames. Keeps getting hit with stream is healthy, no data notifications. Not sure what is going on in my head. I do apologize. Hopefully it's going to be viewable. Meanwhile, Maestro Hoffy making the move stick on Fernandez. Johan making the move on Reges. Through turn 1, several more overtakes through. Johan's already up to 21 seconds of penalties. That is not good at all. The freshman's on track to get disqualified by lap 30 with how many warnings he is getting. He's going to have to really sort that out, otherwise he's going to get hit with a heartbreaking DSQ. But on this lap, though, we were talking about how quickly Lenny was gaining on Tom. He's only gained a half second this lap. Now he gets a little bit more through the S's. But he got 2 and some seconds on the previous lap. But this time around, he's only gonna gain a little more than a second. So his charge is starting to slow up a bit on those softs now as they start to match the medium tires on pace. I mean, they are now 11 lap old mediums up ahead. But it just goes to show how much the softs will wear. He's only gained just a little over a second that lap. So the battlefield and the playing field starting to even out a little bit here towards the front. Meanwhile, F1 Racer is within striking distance to re-overtake Fernandez for P6. Both drivers, though, low on battery, but Fernandez does not have the DRS to defend. F1 Racer looking to go to the inside of the Brazilian, braking later. He's got a nose ahead, and F1 Racer back up into 6th position, retaking the place from the Brazilian, and he's going to use the DRS on this second straight to pull right away from his rival. Max AMG behind, not close enough to make the move. Ooh, he's going to go for the dive. Fernandez leaving him the space. But Max AMG stuck. Oh, going for the switchback, actually, on the hard. How about that? They're starting to come to life. Those 14-lap old tires making the switchback on Fernandez work. Then Max AMG will take 7th position. Fernandez left in the space initially, kind of left the door open. And Max AMG just said, thank you very much. I will have that position. Max up to 7th. Fernandez down to 8th. Well, at the front, it could have been a 3-horse race, but of course, Jan Fehler did have that internet connection. He's actually gained almost a second on Tom. Because last time we checked, it was a 28-second buffer. Now it's 27.3, so it's closing in, but not enough. Tom looked like he's trying, probably embarrassing his tires a bit. He knows how Lenny is coming. Lenny's only 3.4 now behind, so he's gained a second on each of the last 2 laps. But that is not enough. He's going to look like the striking distance, about 4 laps, but I don't know if he'll catch him in time before the tires fall. If those softs are going to fall off soon, so he's going to be praying that the rain starts coming down. Because a lot of these guys are going to have to pit soon, especially the medium runners on 12-lap old mediums. I'm not sure what the exact percentages would be, but we do know that they are definitely going to fall off. And I think it's a matter of when and not how long. Yeah, not sure why I'm losing unexpected frames. Do apologize once again. I'll get it fixed out for next week and ensure that I don't lose as many frames, because I do see on my preview that's getting a little choppy. It says right now it's got a network of 5.4% drops. That is not really acceptable by my standards, so I do apologize for that. I will rectify that going forward. But let's keep an eye on the action on track. Now, Tom only 2.5 seconds clear of Lenny. Now on 13 and 7-lap-old tires. Krunex in P3 right now, but he does have 12 seconds penalties to his name. Currently running in the podium position, which would be inherited by Patrick at this stage. And then they're doing oh, you can see that? There's a raindrop. The rain is coming, folks. It is starting to come down. You see it on your screen now. Hopefully you can see it even with the little bit of frames that are dropped. But we saw a little bit of water on the screen. The rain is starting to come. This could be the saving grace for some of these drivers who are not on the, well, everyone but the hard runners. This is huge, you know, especially the soft runners on those older softs. It just means that hopefully it's less laps until it's time for intermediates, which is perfect for their worn tires. But up at the front, Lenny 2.1 behind. Those softs probably are still going to be the best tires to be in these conditions, with it starting to be changing. But you don't want to push those tires into puncture territory and get yourself into a wreck. But the rain's really coming down now. You can see a lot of drops on your screen, folks, and on track. It looks like you might start getting some water. Not really anything on track just yet. No drivers making any mistakes, which is crucial. But if we can see a mistake, oh, a little bit of rear wheel spin by Krunex. He's now 10.4 behind Lenny, and then about 12 behind Tom. So it just goes to show the pace difference between our front runners and everyone else. Some real impressive stuff from the top two. And Jan Fehler as well, who hasn't really lost touch on that pace with Tom, but well, now he's also a little bit with the weather coming in, as I'm sure his tires are worn. A lot of drivers into the pits right now. Fernandez, Max, and Kev Janex all into the pits, onto intermediates. This is a very early pit stop. Not sure. Oh, it looks like a lot of drivers coming in. So it looks like Jeff came on the radio and told them it is time for the intermediate tires. Oh, there you can see Johan struggling for grip now. This race is completely just changed. The drivers on the dry tires are struggling like crazy. Now the question is, can the likes of Max, AMG, and Fernandez, who are leading the way? Oh, we got a yellow flag. Did Johan hit the wall or something? Not sure if he's got any damage. The camera's not really working in our favor. But the rain came down and it poured, folks. Yeah, Johan's missing part of his wing. DRS has been disabled. You can see Lenny's in DRS range now of Tom. These guys tiptoeing around the track. We'll have to keep an eye on now. Max AMG, the first driver on the intermediates. These guys on the softs, or on the dry tires, you know, really struggling. Johan spinning off once again. He's going to lose a lot of positions here. As a result, to those spins, it's probably going to drop all the way down into 13th. Everyone else coming into the pits now, as it is clearly a wet track. You can see the standing water off the track and off the dry line, but Mr. Hoffey up to P4. He's able to capitalize off of Patrick's struggling pace on the mediums as they dive into the pits. Now, question is, where would these drivers come out with retrospect to the guys who've already pitted? So Max here driving, leading the way on the intermediates. Can he make this undercut work? It's kind of luck, you know, just to pit on the intermediates, because you get the radio call that came in while his rivals around him stayed out because they didn't know. You can see up ahead, Tom and Lenny. We're going to have a battle for the win, folks. The last 10 laps, same tires, barely over half a second between the two. This will be fun. This will be fun, folks. We've seen Lenny battle out and win a lot of these battles this season, but now he's got Tom, our defending versus what will certainly be our new champion here in AOR. Two titans going back and forth with each other. It's going to be great stuff, people. Hold on to your folks, as Johan is our first retirement of the race. He's got too many penalties, and he's too far behind, and we figured it's not worth going on. But meanwhile, Max has actually made it up to 4th. How many seconds? He only has 3 seconds of penalty, so he certainly will inherit that podium spot. As Crew Next has 12 seconds, and the drivers behind only have 6. So he's sitting in the golden seat right now. We'll keep an eye on the we'll keep an eye on the penalty conditions of the drivers. Everyone's on intermediate tires that are fresh, so there's no point in really keeping an eye on the tires. Now Jan will inherit a few positions, might actually get some points, but certainly is not enough to keep the title fight alive. We'll keep an eye on the battle for the win. You know, we're gonna have 10 laps to go when they come across the line, and it's just gonna be a slugfest. Who's gonna be able to manage their battery better? Who's gonna have better wet pace? Who's going to win the Mexican Grand Prix? It is wide open for the battle for the win. It's a 2-horse battle between Tom 97 and Lenny. So we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I believe last season was the likes of, well, there was another Renault, and I believe Kalachu was very racy against Tom in the wet conditions around Mexico. So a little bit of flashbacks for Tom seeing a Renault in his mirrors, but this is Lenny PNR. Lenny has been dominant all season long, winning race after race. And the Frenchman looking to add another one to his belt. But it's going to be tricky because he's got the Red Bull of Tom in front of him and in the way. A little farther back. It's gonna be hard to overtake now because they don't have the DRS down the main straight. You're going to need to get in probably like 4/10 going down the main straight. You have to dump a lot of your battery if you want to get the overtake in the wet around here. It's much harder than it is in the dry. So, I mean, that's kind of doable for most tracks. But Mexico City has given a lot of us a lot of overtakes all day, whether it's been on or off screen. But it just got a lot harder with it being wet. But I'm sure these drivers will find a way. With Lenny right now sitting behind Tom. Both these drivers also have been really good at managing their ERS. If we go ahead and look at the telemetry. Both Tom at 86%, while Lenny at 68%. So the two guys using a lot of their battery right now. Screwnex picks up another time penalty. That will certainly drop him down even farther down the order. But these two guys up front saving their battery and very good at conserving it. They're really going to, you know, deploy it when they need it. So we're going to get ourselves a very even fight here right now. Tom on the leading foot. Now, Lenny does have that penalty to his name. He does have 3 seconds of time penalty. So right now, Tom doesn't necessarily have to fight it. If Lenny puts on an attack, he just needs to keep with him and not make a mistake. But then again, why run the risk? You see Lenny really gaining now in the run to turn 4, but he's not close enough this time around. He's going to be on the rear diffuser, though, but not close enough to make a lunge at this time. Meanwhile, Rega is getting overtaken by Jan Fehler, our pole sitter, trying to claw his way back to get some kind of points as Rega picks up another time penalty. So far, he's just outside. He needs to get within 3 seconds of By Blue to pick up 10th position off of penalties alone. And I'm sure Jan will be able to close that gap up as the German in the McLaren doing the best he can to make a recovery drive out of this. But we'll go ahead and look at the battle for P3 right now. Crew Next has Max AMG in tow. Max, who pitted lap 6 very early onto the hards. He's up 5 positions, so he's had a really good race. I mean, not as good as the likes of Lenny's per se, who's up 2 seconds after starting P12. But both the Ferraris up to 4th and 5th looking very strong today and really good. You know, they started, you know, both of them started way back down the order. They started, Max started on the softs in P9. He tried, it looks like he was on a good lap, and he backed out about the last second for some reason. And Mr. Hoffey didn't even set a lap time and elected to start on the mediums. So both drivers pitting onto the hards to go to the rain. Now granted, it turns out they didn't have to, but pulling the undercut, they were able to make it work. Well, actually, Mr. had to stay out on track, but Max able to make it work. The Matrix has been able to make it work off of just raw pace. So the two drivers having a strong performance. Krennic's also having a strong performance, but if you account for his penalties, well, it's a little unfortunate. Oh, that's crucial there. Tom 97 picks up a 3-second time penalty. It is game on for the win, folks. Both drivers with that 3-second time penalty to their name. It is an even Steven battle. So if Lenny can make the move, he will have the race victory on Tom. We're on lap 29, about to start lap 37 to go once they come across the line. It's all or nothing now, folks. Can Lenny seal the win? He's basically guaranteed the championship unless Jan can somehow get second place, but he'd have to clear the whole field. So Lenny probably knows that and probably thinks, all right, I'm good. I'm just going to mount a charge as Fernandez picks up a time penalty. You can see Lenny's gaining a lot down the front straight. He's trying to get the toe. Tom trying to break it. But Lenny's not going to be close enough. You can see he gained close to a third of a second down the straight. More so of a quarter of a second. But that just goes to show, you know, between battery usage and just the weather, without having DRS, how tricky it is to make the move stick. Meanwhile, a little closer is Max AMG and Mr. Hoffy when it comes to coming and catching Crewnex. So into the braking zone they fell off a little bit. You can see their Crewnex really slow through turns 2 and 3. He picks up another time penalty. He's up to 18 seconds. And now Max AMG under pressure from Maestro, just like he's trying to put pressure on Crewnex. You can see the rear wing now. His teammate trying to find a way around, but right now Max holding on to the position, holding on to P4. Fernandez, meanwhile, picking up that another 3-second penalty. It's up to 9th, so he'll certainly lose out to Kev Genetics, who beautifully does not have a time penalty. But the likes of Fernandez and Patrick will probably lose out to Jan Fehler, who is, I believe, within that 9-second bubble. They'll certainly lose out to F1 Racer and Byblue. F1 Racer, who started out so strong, now down in 9th because of having to stay out the extra lap on the dries and just being stuck outside a little bit longer. I mean, he will inherit a couple positions because of penalties, but he was fighting for a podium early on in this race. Speaking of the podium, though, Lenny almost a second behind Tom, so Tom's starting to flex those muscles there. And also, Max AMG has fallen off to a second behind Crewnex. So Crewnex trying to get that podium on track. But of course, after penalties are applied, it doesn't really matter. But I'm sure Mr. Hoffy wants to make the move on his teammate anyway, so you can see he's within 2/10. Max AMG goes fairly defensive. Mr. Hoffy trying to go around the outside. The two Ferraris battling it out through turn 1, but Max holds on to the position for now. I think Mr. realizes there's no point in sending it on your teammate, as I'm sure, you know, the team wants to have both cars finish in the top 5, which is how it's looking, how it should unfold. Because, you know, Crewnex, you know, they'll both jump Crewnex, but I believe Maestro will lose position to Kev Genetics, who, speaking of which, I would not count out Kev Genetics for a podium. If you look at the gap between him and Max, it's about 3 seconds. So Kev Genetics has a chance to steal a podium. Right now, Max is sitting in the spot for 3rd position, but there's about a 3.1 second gap between the AlphaTauri and the Ferrari. And that 3-second time penalty that Max has right now is the difference maker. So I have to keep an eye on it, but there is a chance here that Kev Genetics in that AlphaTauri, currently running in 7th, can steal a podium. What position did he start in? He started down in 8th. He could come up and finish P3. That would be marvelous for the AlphaTauri team. We'll keep an eye on that gap as it unfolds, because Max right now is looking under pressure from Maestro. He's falling off of Crewnex. The question is, does Kev Genetics have the pace to close up enough? He just needs to get within the 3-second buffer. He doesn't have to close up too much. Behind him, though, his teammates under pressure from F1 Racer. Racer really gaining in. Patrick going really defensive. It looks like the Mercedes will not be close enough in the braking zone at this time. Up towards the front now, we're seeing something we haven't seen. Someone pull away from Lenny. Tom currently driving away from Lenny at the front of the field right now. Lenny doing everything he can. He's throwing everything he's got. He's got 65% of his battery compared to Tom, who still has that 86%. Both drivers doing everything they can. Right now, it's looking like Tom is going to win the race, barring a mistake, because Lenny's trying to just falling off just a little bit too much. But it's looking like the gap from Kev Genetics to Max is just over 3 seconds right now. He's looking at 1 second, 1.2, 0.9, 3.1. He's still holding about the same gap, but I'm not sure if he realizes that he could possibly steal, because he has no idea how many penalties Max AMG has. He would only know about the 2 drivers up ahead, which is Fernandez and Maestro. He doesn't know that Max is 3 seconds, and he might not even know that Crewnex is 18. So Kev Genetics here might be in for a surprise if he can just hold on. 4 laps to go, folks. Tom 97 going into turn number 1, leading the way, followed by Lenny PNR, who will be our new AOR season champion. So even though he's not looking like he's gonna be able to keep up with Tom and possibly make the overtake for the win. He's still going to win the championship today. Krunex running P3 at the moment, but he'll certainly lose out to the likes of Max and Kev, or, well, everyone behind. But it's looking like Max or Kev Gen X will inherit that third position come the checkered flag. What other battles we have close on track? Looks like Jan Failer's caught up to Blue now. Jan trying to get another position on track, looking like he wants to get into the points. I mean, he's closed in enough to, well, not enough to inherit a position from F1 Racer, but you get one from Patrick, probably, oh, definitely from Krunex, and from Fernandez. So he's guaranteed, it looks like 4 positions right now. That'll put him up into 8th, but can he make it 5? And he'd have to do 5. He's got to be within 3 seconds of F1 Racer to get 5th. I'm assuming that he's going to beat Blue because of the penalty. He's going to beat Patrick. He's going to beat Krunex. And he's going to beat Fernandez. So those are the 4 guaranteed at this time, as long as he keeps it clean. Up at the front, 3 laps to go. Lenny's starting to close back in on Tom. Does he have something left in the tank for him for a challenge, you know? It would be nice to see the champion go out in style, win the race. We saw Tom do that here last time out in Mexico. Lenny trying to beat the reigning champion on track when he becomes champion. We'll see what he can do with the last 2 laps and 2 sectors to go. Meanwhile, Kev Genetics look kind of stuck behind Fernandez at the moment. He's actually now 4 seconds, or yeah, wait. Now it's about 3.8 seconds behind Max AMG. It's not looking likely that he's going to be able to catch and beat Max AMG. In the background, you can see Patrick falling victim to F1 Racer. Looks like someone made a mistake. They're side by side going to turn number 4. F1 Racer going around the outside. They make contact on the apex. Patrick slowing up a little bit, going for a switchback through 5. But F1 Racer will take the position. He's up to 8th. Patrick down to 9th. That is important stuff because F1 Racer could potentially lose out to Jan Failer the longer he had a battle, with Jan being stuck behind Blue at this time. 2 laps to go as Tom 97 crosses the line in the Red Bull. It's been a flawless drive for him as F1 Racer picks up another time penalty. That just certainly guarantees that Jan will inherit another position. So Jan Failer is going to get a few points out of this race, even though he had that mass disconnect and he lost out to about 29 seconds. So he's still going to make up a reasonable amount of positions and get a reasonable amount of points. But a race of what could have been, because he was battling with Tom. So he had the opportunity, he had the undercut on Tom. He was ahead and he had DRS broken. So it could have been a 3-horse battle for the win with him at the front. But it's a tale of what ifs at this time. Speaking of what ifs, it's not looking like Kev Genetics will be able to get Max AMG. He's kind of stuck behind Fernandez right now, who's lost a little bit of pace. Fernandez himself is over 3 seconds behind him, Max, with Kev Genetics stuck behind him. It's not looking likely that Kev will be able to steal that magical podium. He should get all the other drivers up ahead, though, as long as he keeps it clean these last few laps. But I think now is a good time as we're watching all this action. Lenny really gaining on Tom this last lap. He's only 1.1 behind. He's really pushing. He's giving it everything he has. You can see he's using all of his battery. Just keep that penalty thing up. It's the wrong button. There we go. We're right on board with Lenny here. As they start the final lap of the Mexican Grand Prix. It's been a really long one. Lap 36 out of 36. And Lenny, win or lose this race, he's going to be your next AOR Season 21 F1 champion. It's going to be one more victory lap for him to go. Tom 97 will looking like he's going to have the race done and dusted with barring a mistake, but Lenny will have the championship in his back pocket. It's been an absolutely dominant season. That's not over. We'll have 2 races left after this one, but Lenny absolutely flawless all season long. Meanwhile, in the background, Max AMG looking to overtake Krunex on track into turn 1 for the final time. Max AMG trying to go around the outside. Krunex holding inside line. Max going for the switchback. There he goes. Round the outside, turn number 2. That's bold. Krunex picks up a time penalty. Max gets a good run through turn 3 now, but the question is, can he pull away from Krunex? Does Krunex have anything in the tank left to attack once again? No, he does not. He's basically out of battery, and Max takes 3rd position on track, and what will definitely be the podium with Kev Gen X falling off too far. We'll go back up towards the front, folks, with Tom 97 coming through the stadium section one last time. Might see some fireworks go off in the rain. You can see the confetti going up. Not exactly ideal conditions for that, but Tom 97 will come out of the final corner and win the Mexican Grand Prix here, round number 10 here. But behind him, Lenny PNR comes home second place, but wins the AOR Season 21 PC F1 Championship. Congratulations, Lenny. You are the new champion. And from one champion to another, Lenny comes home in first, Tom in second, and oh, Patrick has had a spin. So Patrick losing out on the last lap, spinning through the S's. It is heartbreak for the Alpha Tauri team, as Captain X looks like he's just going to miss out on a podium as Max AMG crosses the line and the penalties start to get applied. You can see there Max doing a little bit of donuts as he comes across the line. Captain X will finish 4th position. It looks like he might have picked up a penalty there late on in the race. Not sure what happened there. Jan Fehler comes home in 5th after all the penalties around him. Jan finished 5th, so hats off to him for that remarkable recovery drive, keeping it clean. But special congrats to Lenny PNR, your new Tier 1 champion. Congratulations, Lenny. That is exciting stuff to see. And congrats to Tom 97. You know, first race back, comes home, wins the race with a brilliant drive. I mean, it looked like Jan Fehler had what could have been a race-winning battle stolen from him. I'm sure Tom's feeling a little bit the same because the two of them, you know, were about equal on pace at the start. So I'm sure that's a little disappointing as the two were rivals in the previous season. As you can see there, champagne spraying from our race winner and our season champion. So how about that? Some good stuff here in race number 10 in Mexico City, where it seems like it likes to crown a lot of champions here in AOR, at least in these last two seasons. That was brilliant. But there's your final result. So Kevin X did pick up a 3-second time penalty at the end there. That would explain why he's so far back from Max, because he would have been within 2 seconds. You can see there, Tom 97 wins the race. Then he comes home in P2, and Max AMG with a brilliant drive after starting P9 comes home in 3rd. So if you look at that, the top 4 drivers finished, or the top 4 qualifiers finished 1st, 5th, 7th, and 12th. So looks like starting towards the back was the right strategy here. But it looked like Tom and Lenny, even though they started on different tires, Lenny was kind of stuck for a little bit. He was stuck in traffic, but that medium to soft strategy worked really well for him, and then the rain came down, and it did not matter. We'll go ahead and take a look at the race director, in case any of the drivers would like to see or need it for something for stewarding purposes, as it is only fair to them. There you can see a lot of warnings from the drivers. You know, a lot of time penalties, 21 seconds for both Krunex and Johan. Krunex, who was running in P3 up until that final lap, drops all the way down to 10th because of all those penalties it has. It's unfortunate, but that's what happens when you push too hard and invalidate and go off the track. But that is what it is. And that is all for today, folks. Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and see if anyone has any post-race interviews while we are at it, or if anyone's interested in one. I'm not sure if we'll have anyone in the box, but that's okay. But congrats to Lenny once again on the championship, and congrats to Tom 97 for the win. And I will confirm that right now, the championship. So I'm calling him champion. You know, obviously it'd be smart to confirm it, but if I go to the actual AOR website with the official standings for tier number 1. You go tier number 1, you go standings, you look at the race total. It was a 69-point gap there. Lenny was in the lead. Lenny definitely outscored Jan Fehler that race, and the max points you can score is 26 with a win and fastest lap, which means 52 points is the max amount of points difference for Lenny to be challenged, and it looks like Jan's going to be behind that. So Lenny is 100% the champion this season. Now, on the team side of things, Renault right now has a 72-point lead. They certainly just pulled out more points. So it's looking like the team championship. It's not done and dusted, but it's looking like it's going to go to Renault as well for tier number 1, while the McLaren running in P2, Alfa Romeo in P3. So that is the team championship outlook at this time. But I believe that is all for today, folks. I don't think we're going to get any interviews, but that's okay. I mean, it was definitely a very interesting race. That is for sure. A lot of drama going on, a lot of penalties. I mean, we kind of expected that with the track limits, and it was a lot longer of a race than I thought. You know, with it being 36 laps and about 1 minute 17s, we'll just assume that as your average lap time. It's a long one, and these drivers, hats off to all of them for making it through. Even the likes of Jan, who didn't finish, but he came back from the injury and came in. We actually do have an interview. Lenny is coming in, so we'll bring him on in here momentarily. So that will be cool, pretty cool to have. But yeah, so let's go ahead and bring him on in here. Just hold on 1 sec. Hello, Lenny. How does it feel to be the AOR Season 21 Drivers Champion?
It feels good. It feels really good.
It's been a really like not really a long season, but a brilliant season. But you've podiumed in every race. I mean, that one there, you got second place. So let's look at the Mexican Grand Prix specifically. What was going through your head in qualifying when you decided to, it looks like one shot it and then you were starting at the back? Was that kind of what you were intending? Was that your strategy? Talk me through it.
Yeah, I wanted to start in the last places to have 3 tires race. So I was able to start on medium tires to do medium softs, and yeah, that was good.
Now, when you saw the rain coming in, was there ever a point in the race? Because obviously saw that before, you fully set the strategy. Was there ever a time when you thought that that set of softs you had, it wouldn't make it?
Um, when I saw the rain coming, um, it starts it started raining, and I waited 2 laps before pitting,
Mhm.
and I didn't expect the rain to come so fast, so I was a bit surprised. To to I was just surprised.
Yeah, that was definitely like I was watching it because like there was only two drivers who were on hards who looked like they could make it if the rain came at the end. So a very bold strategy by you, but you've had a lot of very bold and very good results all season. We look back at the results and you've won. I mean, you've podiumed every race and you've won about 2/3 of them. What's your secret? Just practicing hard. You just feel like you got a grip with the car or grip with the game. Um, how do you, like how do you do it? Because I look at your performance this season. It was absolutely phenomenal what you've done.
Um, I didn't expect it to be so fast.
Mm.
Didn't expect to win so much races. So when I started the season, I was like, if I finish P3 on the championship, I will be happy.
Hmm.
But P1 is just good, really good.
Yeah.
It was just a bit unexpected.
So now we got 10 races down, two to go. We're gonna go first. We'll look at the previous 10. Which one was your favorite race? Which was your worst? It doesn't have to be necessarily the track or how the race went, but which ones do you remember the most per se?
My best race was maybe Silverstone,
Hmm.
because I was I was I had a great pace,
Hmm.
a really good pace, and I played well with the strategy.
Hmm.
And my worst race was maybe Zandvoort.
Hmm.
Uh, nah, this race was a bit disappointing. I wasn't really in the pace of the leader, so yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Now, going up ahead, we got Canada coming up. Are you excited? Do you think you can bring the fight back, possibly take another win there? Is Canada a good track for you? What are your thoughts on that track coming up?
I think, what is the next track?
Canada. So up in Montreal. It's a very high speed track to say the least. Do you think that'll fit to your strengths, or how do you feel about that?
Mm, I don't really like Canada, so I don't know what gonna happen on this race. So
I guess we'll
we will
wait and
see.
see. Yeah, we'll wait and see. Well, hopefully, you don't put it in the Wall of Champions. I mean, hopefully, You don't, considering the fact you are a champion, so don't let it be like a magnet for you. But congratulations once again on what's been a phenomenal season so far and winning the championship. And a great job today with that P2, and hopefully we'll see you back on the top step once again this season, which I have a feeling we might.
Thank you, thank you.
Yep, so thank you very much, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Congratulations one last time.
Thank you.
Alrighty, take care. So that was the voice of Lenny. He is our new AOR Season 21 Drivers Champion, and what has been an absolutely dominant performance. He scored 202 points already. Well, that was through 9 races. He's going to get another 18 for today, so it's going to be up to 220 points through 10 races. Phenomenal stuff for him, and podiums in 10 of 10 races so far. But still, hats off to everyone else who drove today. And thank you everyone for watching and staying tuned as always. It has been a pleasure. And yes, glad to see we got a bunch of fans for Lenny in the stands, whether it be some of the drivers who raced today or some others. Yes, the accident was very good. Perfectly clear though to understand, so it was awesome. Would love to have him back in the interview box once again, see if he wins a race or if he ever wants to come in. Same goes for any other drivers in the field. So thank you everyone for watching today, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I hope you enjoyed this feature presentation of Apex Online Racing Hype Energy Formula 1 Weeks. I am Fizzymon, and I'm signing off, and have a good rest of your day.